Depending on, what you get out of today's presentation, this could be, one of the most important presentations you ever hear in your legal career. Um, and there's really a lot of information here. The presentation isn't going to be all that long, but if you can understand what I'm talking about today and really think about it, and it can make a major difference in your life. And it's really what I'm going to share with you today is sort of the number one secret of success that I've found in speaking with the most successful people that I've encountered in my career and what they've done. And the message of that is here. So, when I interview someone, I'll typically be kind of, very just open and try to connect with them. And I'll start with, some simple chat, and it doesn't matter really what I'm interviewing them for. It could be a candidate of mine looking for a position, or it could be, someone that's looking, to work in our company. And I'll just kind of say, what's going on? And what that question means is what, why are you applying for this job? And a good employer really, if they get the answer to that, they can quickly and very efficiently eliminate people for positions. And they should use this question, because if you don't have concrete reasons for, wanting to work in a certain employer, and, and especially at a higher level as an attorney or, a law clerk and that sort of thing, then the employer really shouldn't be hiring you. And because the people that do the best in any position or any career are ones that have concrete reasons for wanting to do something. And, and most people really don't have good reasons for applying to jobs, and they don't have good reasons for, wanting to do anything. And consequently, when you don't have reasons for wanting to do something, you don't really get, fire yourself up and wanting to do something well, the world ends up taking advantage of you. And, your results that you get are the results that other people say you should get. And you tend not to do anywhere near as well as you otherwise would. So yesterday, or it was actually not yesterday, but a few days ago, I interviewed someone for a position, BCG attorney search, that wanted to get into legal placement, I thought. And they'd gone to great schools and, top 10 law school. They were working in a, major law firm, but there was nothing in their background to indicate they were interested in legal placement. They had written a cover letter that indicated they were, but I didn't really see any reason, anything that would indicate any interest. So I received the resume and I didn't interview the person, but, finally, over a span of a few weeks, the person kept applying, for the position over and over and over again. And I thought, well, they must be very interested if they kept applying. And, they definitely got my attention. And because of that, I assumed that they must have some sort of passion for this job. And I didn't really understand why they had kept applying and why they were so interested. So I was curious to find out. And even though I was curious to find out, I still kind of had some doubts, like serious doubts. Like I was like, there's a 90% chance this isn't going to work out, just because of the way the resume, read. And, and what happened, is, the person entered the interview and they knew very little about what I did and what the company did. They knew nothing about the job. And mainly they were looking, focused mainly on how much they could make. They were looking, to be sold on the job. And they also were bragging about their accomplishments. And, one of the things that is very important, and I'll just say this, right away or right up front, is, when you're looking for a position, you should know everything you possibly can about the employer. If you can, you should speak with people there and get information. You should go out of your way to really be sold on the employer and believe in the job and the employer before you ever get in there, because employers want to hire you, but they're only going to want to hire people that are sold on them and pre-sold. And, if you come in and you look like you're not pre-sold or you haven't done your homework, especially at the best jobs, then the employer is not going to want to hire you. You'll get jobs, but you won't get jobs with the best employers, because the best employers can hire, have the choice to hire a lot of people. And the people that they tend to hire are the people that have the most interest and passion in them, because they know that those people are likely to stick around and add the most value. So, I listened to this guy talk about himself, and he said things like, I took calculus when I was only 14, and that kind of came out of unrelated questions. And then at one point, he said something to the effect of, I was probably only talking to him because I was trying to recruit him to work in another law firm, or work, not in my company. And, and I was pretty amazed by that. And, but there's nothing wrong with making mistakes in interviews, and everyone learns and makes mistakes, and a lot of people, having a lot of self-confidence is a good thing. But the mistakes that this person made are quite common. He was applying to positions, without knowing what the job was about, what the setting was like, what the opportunity was like, and he wasn't pre-sold on the job before interviewing. And, there's no reason, to hire someone that you're going to need to hire and, sell on how great the job is. I mean, unless you're, cleaning sewers or something. I mean, you don't need to, most employers do not need to do a lot of pre-selling. I mean, they do need, to tell people that they're the best platform if the person already is in the profession, or they may have the best, offer the best place to work, but they don't definitely need to be pre-sold. And I know lots of people, in the legal profession and outside of it, who rose, from literally nothing and became something major because they committed to it. And I don't know Jeff Bezos, by the way, but he's an example of someone who was able to have a vision of a company that would sell everything, and had it, and just kept, refining it over and over and over again, and believed in it. I mean, from the, and from the time he was, working in his house and had a server in there that was, running the whole company, so, he believed in it, and everyone, that does something of kind of major significance in the world, tends to have a major belief in what they want to do. And the same thing with the best attorneys, so, you need to commit, and you need to have a vision for what you want, and you need to have that when you go into interviews. So most attorneys, law students and others, do not have goals, and they don't have mission statements. And I'm going to work with you guys on a mission statement today and show you what it is and how to do one. But they really don't know where they're going, or what's important to them, or they don't have goals. And there's, very few people, that I've ever met that actually had a written mission statement and then had goals but did not achieve them. Most people and attorneys out there do not know what they want, and they don't know where they want to work. They're not 100% committed to a certain practice setting. They don't, know what they want, or when to get there. And the old adage is, of an airplane. When an airplane takes off, it has to make, it knows exactly where it's going, but in order to get there, I mean, it has to make, thousands of adjustments and little turns and things to get there. And because if it just kind of flies, it's not going to go anywhere. And it's the same thing with, your career. You have to know exactly where you want to go, and then you have to continually, refine that over and over and over again to get to where you want to go. And goals and having a direction for your career are like really, honestly, like the most important thing. And they're just as important as your interviewing skills, or just as important as your resume. And they're more important than where you went to law school or what your past has been, because once you commit to goals, you're going to do very, very well. And I call that a pre-sell. And in order to get any job and advance, while you're there as well, you need to pre-sell yourself. You need to kind of work yourself up into a white hot frenzy about, whatever it is you want in your career and life. I mean, it could be working in a law firm, it could be working for the government, it could be working in-house, it could be a certain type of company. But regardless of what you're seeking, you need to know where you want to go. And, in Hollywood, for example, like I've met lots of actors that have become successful and other people. And the people that do that, they don't become successful just because they show up at auditions and they're, good looking and they have acting talent. They get to where they want to go because they have just this massive passion, this networking. It comes through in everything that they do and how they present themselves. And that's what you need too if you're going to be very successful in the practice of law. And you need to be able to pre-sell yourself on every interview you go in and exactly what you want to do. And you need to have a goal and a direction. And when you are enthusiastic for something, it's apparent when you interview. I mean, it comes through in how you look, how you talk, the things you say, what you don't say, everything that you communicate is going to come through when you're pre-sold. And if you're not pre-sold and you show up to interviews or you show up to a job and you're not pre-sold on what the employer's doing, then it's going to mess you up. And everybody, that has problems in their career tends not to be pre-sold. They think that they need to be doing something else. It's very, very common for, young people in particular to think that they need to, be more powerful or start businesses, or they need to get in, do something else. And then one foot's in the door, one foot's out the door. And, you can certainly get into employers, based on, your grades or whatever when you're young. But, in order to have a successful career at anything, you need to be completely pre-sold on, what it is you're doing and believe in it, and then just throw everything you got into it. And if you look at what I do, I mean, I do nothing but, I'm interested in the legal placement and career business, and, and that's legal career business, and I'm 100% pre-sold on it. It's all I think about. It's, and professionally, it's all I do, and it comes through. I mean, I love it, and there's nothing that could dissuade me from that. And you need to be like that too if you're going to do well. You need to pre-sell yourself, not just on the job, but on the employer before interviewing. And then, you need to, even before applying, ideally, you would have pre-sold yourself. But everything needs to come through, on being pre-sold. I mean, one example would be the location of the employer. You should have a reason for wanting to work wherever that location is. You should be, pre-sold on your peers. You should be pre-sold on the reason the compensation is the way it is, whether it's high or it's low. You should be pre-sold on the work, the opportunities for upward mobility and how it fits in with your goals. And if you're not, it's not the right job for you, but you need to actually understand what that is. And, sometimes it takes a while to develop an idea of exactly what you want. But once you know exactly what you want, you need to hold that into your mind because if you have that drive and you really come through as having that kind of enthusiasm, you're going to get better jobs than your background experience would indicate. I mean, people that are, overachievers typically are overachievers because they work harder, but also because they're more focused and they know exactly what they want. And so being pre-sold, is very important. And if you're not pre-sold and your heart's not in it, most employers are going to pick up on that. And if they know what they're doing, they're going to hire someone else. It doesn't mean you won't get jobs. I mean, people will, use you for a couple of years to get certain things done because you look good on paper and it's good for clients, or, you can sometimes get jobs where, the employers are desperate for someone to do the work. But in terms of going far at something and doing really well, you need to pre-sell yourself, and you need to be very pre-sold. In the world, I mean, if you think about it and you look around you, there's so many people that are living just and working soulless, aimless lives. I mean, they go to work each day, they're unhappy, they feel like they need to make a living, they think that they should be working in a certain type of position, and they may just be unhappy doing what they're doing. And, one of the things about practicing law is a lot of people don't like it. And I'm going to tell you a story about how you can like it. And they don't like it because they surround themselves with too much negative messaging, and they they have certain thoughts about it, and they don't pre-sell themselves. You know, if you learn to pre-sell yourself, I'm telling you, like, anybody that doesn't think that they like it right now can like it. And you can also, you know, if it's not really what you want and you don't think it's the best profession for you, you can do other things as well. But pre-selling yourself on being an attorney is hugely important. I mean, and the type of attorney you want to be, regardless of the stage of your career, you know, you can pre-sell yourself until you're, you know, in your 80s. I mean, being an attorney, but you need to be pre-sold and really believe in whatever aspect of practicing law you're doing. And if you don't have goals and you don't know what you want, I'm just telling you right now, the world's going to take advantage of you. You're going to get plugged into certain types of things, and people that have the ability to pre-sell themselves are going to lead you. And it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't matter if you don't think you're a leader. You can be a leader with your mind in terms of what you want to do. I mean, it may be being a law professor. It could be, it may be writing books about, you know, legal history. I mean, it doesn't, or working in a government office, but you need to have a belief in something, because if the people that believe in things are the ones that rise to the top and do well in any organization, or, you know, even starting their own law firms or whatever it is you want to do, but you need to believe in what you're doing, and you need to pre-sell yourself, and especially for interviews. But, you know, it's extremely important. And, you know, everything about my life and goals are the things that I've pre-sold myself on. I mean, you know, when I was, you know, very, you know, when I starting, you know, in the, you know, 20 years ago, I told myself I would, you know, live on the beach and do all these different things. And I did. Within very few, you know, years of pre-selling myself with that, my life became exactly how I wanted it to be. And I had a goal, and I, you know, kept refining it, and I still do. And I still keep refining goals and mission statements about what I want to represent, and what I want companies to represent, and how I want to get more people jobs, and everything. And everyone that does this in their profession succeeds. People that don't are taken advantage of and by the world, and live much more boring lives than they're otherwise capable of. And I'm apologizing right now for being so direct with you, but I do want you to understand that you're in control of your life, and you're in control of the person you become, and you should be the best at whatever it is you're doing. And you can be, but you need to commit and tell yourself that you're going to improve, and you need to have a mission. You know, so I'll tell you a quick story. You know, I finished my first year of law school. I'd had a goal of going to law school. That was my only goal before that. But I finished my first year of law school. You know, at the end of my first year, I did very well, but not that great my first semester. But you know, but I did very well my second semester, and but I didn't really enjoy it very much. I mean, it just seemed like, you know, I'd never seen people so competitive. I saw people, you know, lying and you know, hiding things, and I didn't think that a lot of the people were very fun, you know, compared to the kind of people that I'd been associated with before that. Because before I went to law school, I'd been an asphalt contractor, and I actually really enjoyed that. I mean, it was fun, you know, being outdoors in the sun, driving around a truck, meeting new people all the time, talking to new people, you know, seeing the product of my work, you know, feeling like I was in control of how much money I was making, you know, making a lot of money, you know. And then in contrast, I mean, the law just seemed like a very kind of competitive thing where everyone was fighting over a limited number of jobs and all this stuff. And there just seemed, you know, so many, you know, opportunities in the asphalt business comparatively. And I really missed it, you know, you know, missed it. And, you know, and it seemed like there was a lot more rejection, unhappiness, stress, even much less money, you know, than being an asphalt contractor, which was a lot of fun. You know, and I was confused. I mean, I doubted, you know, that I was doing the right thing, because my only goal at that point had been to go to law school. It hadn't been to, you know, anything about working in a law firm. I knew nothing about it. I didn't really know any attorneys growing up. So, you know, I'd had a goal early to get into law school, and in order to do that goal, you know, I talked to people that went to the law school I went to. I you know, got in touch with the admissions office from the time it was the second year, and I set goals, and you know, and I was able to you know, go where I wanted and do things, you know, because of setting that goal. And that was an important thing, even down to the exact law school, you know, being very motivated. And I'd learned very early on that, you know, if you want to do something, you just need to, you know, set a goal, and then you need to do everything you can to go after it and be really very attractive to that goal. But again, you know, my first year of law school made me very confused. And, you know, you know, like many people, I felt, you know, quite alone. I was questioning the point of what I was doing. And then I also knew I needed to get experience. So I went to work, you know, at this program in the Justice Department, where I was lucky to get a job, you know, for free without getting paid that summer. And, you know, and I showed up in Washington, D.C., and instead of doing the asphalt work, I was staying in a, you know, cheap hotel that was, you know, a couple $100s a week. And literally in the gift shop, it was pretty close. It was like right across the street from the Justice Department by what used to be a Planet Hollywood. But they literally sold more types of handcuffs and adult novelties than food and other sorts of things that you might need in a gift shop. And you know, and I was sitting there and I was looking directly, you know, at an industrial air conditioning unit that was the size of a small house in this kind of room that was in the middle, and there was almost no light coming in, and you know, and it rattled so loudly, so it was such a strong like rattle that, you know, when it was on bed, you know, would scurry across the floor. I mean, it was when no one was in it, so it was just, you know, not a fun summer, you know, and just a really bad time. But anyway, so one evening I was trying to watch television, which was almost impossible to do because the volume wouldn't go up high enough to cover up the roar of the air conditioner. And I went to get a soda, and there was someone peeing in the ice maker on the floor. I mean, it was just, this is kind of the place it was. But I, you know, I endured it. I mean, it was a very difficult summer. And despite all this, I decided that my best career option, that this really was my best career option. I was committed to it, and I'd done all this stuff to go to law school. And, you know, and I knew that if I was going to succeed and do well and get jobs with good law firms and so forth and be happy, I needed to become incredibly enthusiastic about practicing law and law firms and the city I wanted to work in and what I needed to do. And so instead of like feeling bad about my surroundings and feeling bad about my job, which you know, most people would do, I decided that I would use that time to formulate a mission related to practicing law. And you know, my dad, I remember at the time, had always said to me that, you know, you're not going to want to do asphalt when you're 40, and he was completely right. You know, the people that were in their 40s and 50s doing the work looked like lizards. I mean, because they spent so much time, they looked, you know, like in their 70s by the time they were, you know, 50. And, you know, it was just a very unhealthy type of work. You know, I mean, one day I was buying asphalt sealer from the factory owner, son, and he'd just gotten an MBA from the University of Michigan and was kind of, you know, all, you know, wearing Oxford shirts and khakis and so forth, and, you know, walking around the factory. And, you know, and he seemed kind of amused by the whole kind of people he was selling the product to. And I think he'd never actually worked in this factory. And I asked him one day if it caused cancer, and I was sort of joking. And he said, not immediately. And, you know, so it's dangerous stuff. It's not a good way to make a living. And you can definitely make a better living doing other types of work than you can, you know, certainly, you know, doing asphalt, you know, and being an attorney is better. But so what I did to get, you know, sufficiently enthusiastic is I started reading everything I could about being an attorney. And this is something that, you know, every attorney should be doing depending on what you want to do. I read books about law firms, you know, and how they operated. I read books about successful attorneys. I read lots of books about them. And I studied these books, and I learned, you know, what the most successful attorneys did. And incredibly, I even, you know, went out a year later and met some of them, you know, and that I read about, and these books. And I'd read a book by Katie Couric's sister, who's no longer alive, and she's the newscaster. And I decided I would be a litigator, not a corporate attorney. And I developed all these reasons why it was a good fit for me. I saw myself doing this type of work, and I spent my free time really, becoming very motivated, to do that. I watched the attorneys I saw in Washington, D.C. Doing that sort of work, and I asked them questions, the law firm attorneys that I would meet. And there were attorneys at the Justice Department that used to work in law firms. And I asked them about their experience and what they liked and didn't like. And I started formulating goals to work in the best law firm I could and do litigation. And I made this my focus. And another thing that I did is, all over, people are, have negative messages about what it's like to work in a law firm. And I would get negative messages, but I would ignore those messages and I would think as positively as I possibly could about it. And I needed to do that in order to be successful. I made sure that everything I listened to, was positive, and I kept reinforcing my goal. And I decided I wanted to work in New York City. And so for several weeks in the summer, I took after the thing in the Justice Department ended, and some weekends I visited New York City, where my girlfriend's family lived, and I met attorneys there as well, and I asked them questions. And then I, put on and I learned everything I could about it, and different neighborhoods and everything, and about the different firms, and I made this a goal. And one of the things is that, there should be really, no reason for me to have been so enthusiastic, but I learned about the positives, and I learned about, what I wanted to do. And these positions paid, far less even in a law firm than being a contractor, but they weren't not as fun. Sitting inside of a place indoors all day, not being able to go outside, just was something that, really could have pre-sold me against the job. But it's something that I certainly, did not allow myself to be, negatively impacted by. And I literally worked myself up into a frenzy. I mean, I sold myself on how much I wanted to work in a major law firm, how much I wanted to work in New York City. And then when I started interviewing, I learned about all the people I was interviewing with. I was able to connect with the people I was interviewing with. I tried to get as much, advice as possible. I, looked the part. I did everything I possibly could. And I put on the appearance of someone that was very well suited to this, and did well in my interviews. But the thing is when I interviewed with law firms in other cities, I would typically drop the ball, because I wasn't pre-sold on working even in the city. If someone in Washington, D.C., for example, asked me where I wanted to live, I remember one law firm did, I just blurted out Georgetown after kind of a pause, because I was so taken back by the question, and I realized I hadn't thought about it, and the person picked up on it. And that's an example, like people can pick up very quickly if you're not a good fit for something, if you're not really interested in it, and if you're not pre-sold. And that law firm, had certainly plenty of people they could have chosen, to hire, and they didn't. So, if someone had asked me a similar question about New York, I would have been able to engage in kind of a long conversation about it, different neighborhoods and the pluses and minuses of each. I educated myself about that market. And just one little thing, I mean, when you make something your goal, like all this other stuff kind of comes into play. And it's very important, because if you think about it, like if you were the law firm in Washington, D.C., and if they'd asked me about the neighborhoods and I was able to kind of engage in an extended conversation and connect with them, and then they could have given me advice and we could have connected, that would have been someone that really probably would have wanted to hire me. In contrast, I was just the exact opposite. And so I didn't get a job, but I was able to get jobs in New York where I understood it. And I knew the geography where I was interviewing. I knew I had lots of information about the firms I was talking to. I knew about the people I was speaking with. And I even, when I got their names, I imagined how I would connect with them because it was important to me. And I was able to find commonalities with them. And the law firm I ultimately went to work for, I remember someone had gone to Fordham Law School, and I knew someone that had gone there and whose mother had taught at one of these Catholic schools, who was part of the consortium, and so I was able to relate to them that way, and that helped me. So, the more you're able to connect with the audience and you understand the audience, the better you're going to do. And most people, when they show up for interviews or in their careers in general, and this is extremely important, and I hope you guys are understanding this point, but they're not selling themselves. They're not able to commit to whatever it is they're doing. They're just kind of wandering around aimlessly, and because of that, they don't reach the level of success they want to. Like, if you know what law school you want to go to, then you understand things like the grades and the who you need to talk to, and the and what you need to look like and say, and and I don't know about look like, but the things you need to reflect. And the same thing goes with working in a law firm. If you know exactly where you want to work, or the market, and the type of firm, the kind of grades you need to get, you need to be able to talk about it with enthusiasm, and you don't need to be sold on something. You need to be 100% sold and ready when you show up. And if you are, then people are so much more likely to want to hire you, and you're also going to have a longevity to stay in the position and do well for a long period of time, and that's very helpful. So understanding these things is very important, and and most people never do that. And so you need to sell yourself. You need to be understanding that you need to be able to become the person that the job is, and commit to the the practice area, the location, the type of practice setting, everything. And most people, when they're young, for example, a lot of them want to work in law firms, make a lot of money, and so they set a goal of going to a good law school or whatever and doing well, but that's not enough. I mean, money is also not enough. I mean, you need a purpose, and the purpose needs to be something that is motivating you on a constant basis, something that you stand for. And again, if you don't have goals, you're not going to get anywhere. And I really, this is like so important. I mean, it's one of the most important things that a lot of people are not taught in school, and it should be. But you need to have a purpose behind everything that you do. And if you're just kind of meandering along, then nothing's ever going to happen. And there's so many people that are rudderless, and both law students and even attorneys that are several years out of law school and working in large law firms. I mean, if you know who you want to become and what you want to do, you're going to do much better. Employers are going to pick up on it, and you're going to have a much different life and career than you otherwise would. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's called a statement of a chief aim or definite purpose, and I'll tell stories to go with it, so it'll be a little bit interesting. And I want you to, hopefully, understand exactly what I'm talking about. But it should be something that's written down, and it should be something that will guide everything that you do in your legal career. And you can update it from time to time, but it's the sort of thing that you should read to yourself on an ongoing basis. There's a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. You don't need to buy it. You can actually get it on the Harrison Barnes website if you just search for Harrison Barnes and Think and Grow Rich. But it's really a great book, and it's something that talks about this. And it's, I think more than any book in the world, it's something that a lot of people in all sorts of professions, credit it for their success. I mean, I read it in college when I was young, maybe 19 or 20. It helped me, and it gave me this, pretty much the results that I've had in my life. A lot of them are, came from following this advice. I was once heard Anthony Robbins say that he's a motivational person, that he, read it several times, and people that read it twice as much as him are, twice as successful as him, while those who read it 3 times or 3 times as successful. So a lot of people read this book every year and get the message from it. And it's a very powerful message if you understand what I'm going to talk to you about today. So if you're going to be successful, you need to have a statement of a chief aim or definite purpose, and you write it down. And one of the most famous lines of the book that I like is anything that the mind of man can conceive and believe can be achieved. Meaning, you have to think, about yourself and about your career in a way, where you have a vision for what you want to do, and that guides everything. And Hill, the writer of the book, and he was given money by Dale Carnegie, or anyway, to spend several years, working on this. I think he might have worked on it 2 decades, and during that time, he spoke to more than 16,000 people, and he found that over 95% of the people he spoke with didn't really have any aim in their lives. I mean, they were just they just kind of were doing things, and he realized that everyone that had a statement of purpose, the people that had those were the most successful. And, when you have a name, you read it over and over again. You're supposed to read it at night, and it influences everything that happens to you in your career if you follow this aim on a consistent basis when you read it. So you need to, he wrote that any definite aim that is deliberately fixed in the mind, held there with a determination to realize it, finally saturates the entire subconscious mind until it automatically influences the physical action of the body towards attaining the purpose. So he believed that, without a definite purpose, most people, go in many different, directions. They do lots of different things. And this lack of focus leads not to power, but to indecision and weakness. And if you think about, people that you may know that are trying a bunch of different things, aren't focused on practicing law, they're not, not much ever happens to those kind of people. I mean, their careers nothing happens that should happen. They don't rise as far as they should. They just get kind of taken advantage and carried along. And at some point, that's what happens to 95% of the people. So most people do not have a lack of purpose. And you really need to have that lack of purpose. You really need to have purpose to do well in your career. And if you understand this, your life and your career are going to change. You can really achieve anything you want in your life and career when your efforts are focused. And you definitely need to, make sure, that you are focused at all times. It's very, very important. So according to Hill, to reach any goal, you need to have a burning desire, which is an example of me getting myself pumped up, sitting next to the air conditioning unit, reading books and then going out and talking to people and so forth. You need to have a definite purpose, and then you need to take the appropriate action to reach that goal. And you need to have all 3 of these to be successful in anything that you're doing, all 3. And if you look at the most successful attorneys, most of them have that. The most successful businessmen, the most successful people in entertainment or any type of endeavor. They always have that. And you need to burn your desire if you're going to succeed as an attorney in your job search. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to get that desire, because what happens to most attorneys and people in the legal profession is, any type of thing that you do, regardless of what the career is, you're going to be surrounded by people that are going to have negative views of whatever it is that you're doing. And those people may be people that aren't doing well, or they may be people that are, just have other types of beliefs, or, that aren't focused, or, or just kind of being, carried along by the system. And if you believe in what you're doing, you're going to do much better. So, to become very, very good at being an attorney and to become very, very good at getting jobs, you need to learn whatever you can about what you want to do and why it's going to be a good fit for your skills and abilities. You need to believe in it, and you need to commit to it, and your efforts need to be focused. You can't be the sort of person like the guy I was telling you about that showed up and wanted to be sold. You need to be pre-sold, and you need to understand why it's good for you and what's not, and where your skills are most likely to be valued. And if you believe in something and want it, your odds of getting it are so much better than if you don't believe in it. And you need to believe in it, and you need to work yourself up and really, really believe in it. And this is the difference between, success and failure. I mean, people that believe in something and commit to something are the ones that get it, and people that don't are the ones that don't. So, I come across, so many examples. I'm going to tell you about some today, but attorneys that, are so enthusiastic about practicing law in one setting, in a practice area, or a location, they want it. And it's so important. And there's so much that goes along with this that I could talk about. But what happens is, when people have this sort of belief and they really want something, all these things happen that normally wouldn't happen. And I don't know why that is, but it's true. So a few years ago, I was working for a woman that was clerking for a bankruptcy judge, and she was in a small mountain state, and she literally never worked, for a law firm. And she had below average grades at a law school that was barely in the top 100 if it was there. And, she was a good candidate, but, not the kind of candidate you would expect to get a position, with a major law firm in their bankruptcy department in New York City. And in addition, at the time, the economy was doing very, very well, and there were hardly any bankruptcy jobs. And she hadn't even taken, the New York bar. But she was completely, committed to working in New York City, and wouldn't listen to any form of logic that maybe she should, at least try to find some jobs in the location she was in or where she was from. She just wanted nothing more than to work in New York City. And I explained to her, that not only did most of these firms, the kind of firms she wanted to work for in New York, not hire, bankruptcy clerks most of the time, but they wouldn't hire her, without her having been a summer associate, and she didn't care. I mean, right now, when the economy is not doing well, for example, bankruptcy clerks are marketable. But back then, when the economy was booming and there was only a few, firms, big firms of work, it was difficult. And I also explained to her that, law firms weren't hiring people with below average grades in New York City from her law school. And even if she had top grades, it would have been difficult. And again, she didn't care. And I told her there were, hardly any bankruptcy jobs at the time, and she didn't care. So, I told her she was committing career suicide. It was July. Her clerkship ended in August. I wanted her to get a job, and, but she just, none of this, seemed to bother her. I mean, she knew what she wanted, and she was very, very committed. And, and I explained to her she had any contacts, and, and there's, when she got there, I mean, she hadn't spent really time in New York. She just didn't care. So, she knew what she wanted. She had, gone to, knew some people from college, had gone to better law schools and gotten jobs in New York, and she wanted to be like them. And that's actually a big source of motivation that I've noticed with many attorneys. They get motivated by someone that they know that became successful, and then they modify and they kind of have goals around that. And that's very effective. I mean, that's an example of getting a goal and a purpose and committing to it and doing it to prove something to someone. You may be proving it to a parent, you may be proving it to, yourself or someone else, or, that, is an example of someone that did very well because of this. And she seen attorneys from New York that came into her court, and she talked to them and she looked at the stuff they wrote, and she decided she wanted to be like them. So she had she had people from college, and then she had the attorneys that came into her court. And she would see when they came into her court, everyone was like, because this wasn't a huge market, here are some attorneys from big New York law firms, and everyone was kind of in awe, at this courthouse. And I remember I was clerking in a Northern Michigan courthouse when attorneys from New York would come in, and I was also impressed with them. So the idea is that she was able to, really give her, a purpose. And not only that, but she spent weeks investigating and interviewing recruiters in New York, and the ones she thought would do the best and work the hardest for her and open the most doors. And then before contacting me, and who would work the hardest for her. And she really did everything, possible. And then she emailed me and contacted me personally several times, wanting me to represent her. And it's just, this woman was just completely, motivated and had a purpose and knew exactly what she wanted. And I did represent her, and I did everything I could, to get her a job. And I explained to firms, her passion for New York and her inability to, her focus and why that would make her do well. And I represented her to firms that didn't even have openings, and that would have to lower their hiring standards if they were to bring her in. With no, and I explained why she would do well, because of everything in her level of commitment, her passion, her purpose, and at the same time, I mean, as enthusiastic as she was, I didn't think anything would happen, because bankruptcy attorneys at the time just weren't getting openings. They weren't getting jobs because there weren't really any openings and there wasn't enough work, and there was no reason a law firm in New York would want to bring someone in. And the thing is I've noticed in my career is every time I represent someone like this that's just completely sold and knows exactly what they want and has this in them, they do well. It's even when I'm not so, even when I don't pick up the signals about why this person should do well, why they would do well, and so forth, I just, I'm wrong. And even though I'm telling you this today and it's something that I believe, I don't always, I'm not always sold a lot of times. And she didn't get a job. It wasn't me that got her a job. I did my best. It was her. And the firms that interviewed her, I don't know what happened, and how it happened, but she got interviews, and even with the first firm, she interviewed her. She got an offer, and she was just completely on. She connected. She did everything she could. She came across as so passionate and so enthusiastic, and she still is. And she's, now she's just all networked in New York and part of all these major committees, and, knows all these people, and is just incredibly successful. And it's just this commitment and, that got her this work. It's really incredible, because she had a purpose, and she keeps refining her purpose. Even now she wants to work at, maybe even better firms than she's at. And, she's doing everything she can. She's getting business, and I have no doubt she'll probably be, among the top bankruptcy attorneys in New York and make partner at a major firm and all this stuff. And, it's all because of, having a purpose and wanting something. And, think about how much work she did convincing me, and then how much work I did convincing others, and how that focus on one thing has made her successful where she's at now, and how it's changed, and how it's made someone that, maybe didn't have the skills to get the good grades or to get into the best law school, and, and took a clerkship in a relatively small market, but that person has got ahead, and it's crazy. And, it's something that happens when you commit and you have a purpose, regardless of your, whatever you're doing. And, whatever you're doing, you need to develop a passion. Like, I know an example, and this is another example of someone drawing on their parents, an extremely successful litigator, someone that, makes, is a very young attorney, and, makes millions of dollars a year as an attorney. And he was telling me a story that, his father was an immigrant, and never felt he could get ahead because he had an accent and didn't, use English properly. And, the father always felt, that very bad because of that. And then this litigator became very successful and did very well when he learned to write well. And that made him stand out. He's got other skills too. But that he's a very good writer, and that helped him advance. So a lot of people develop an interest in the practice of law, or you can develop a practice setting or doing something well because things that have happened to you, people you met, or your parents, role models, and other people that kind of give you a passion to do something. And you need, that passion in, to prove something. I mean, you need something that's motivating you and a purpose, and you can develop it on your own. Becoming an attorney, I had nothing to prove. It's just, to myself, but I knew instinctively that I needed to have a purpose after reading Think and Grow Rich and seeing the power of it. Another attorney I know had a father that went to jail for several weeks, and he had, sold a business and then continued to use the trademark of the business, and and then had been sued and had to file for bankruptcy, and then had actually gone to jail for using the trademark, after he was told to not use it anymore, and he lost his house, his business, his cars, everything due to trademark infringement. And his daughter, who was growing up with us at the time, was devastated. She was very upset. I mean, the family had to move to a small apartment after living in basically, I don't know, mansion's the right word, but I mean a multi-million-dollar house in a nice neighborhood. And she was determined to help her family recover. She used that as something that motivated her to, excel in college, get incredible grades, do very well in law school. And then she became a trademark attorney at one of the top U.S. law firms, and then went and succeeded in, getting rid of the judgment against her father and helping her family recover. And incredibly, after she did that, she lost interest in the practice of law and being a trademark attorney. But at the same time, that's an example of a passion. And, you need this passion as an attorney to do well. You need to have a passion for the law and the practice setting you're in your practice area. And if you don't have this, you're not going to get the jobs you can, and nothing of significance is going to happen that would otherwise happen. Your efforts are going to be scattered. You're never going to get to where you want to go. And a lot of times, if you have those efforts, if you have that passion, you really know what you want, it's going to force you sometimes to look at other jobs. It will force you to take other detours with your career, to go to other cities, to do other things that are going to help you. And that's something that nobody in my position can tell you what you need. I'm going to show you today how to develop that. But if you don't have that, your efforts are going to be scattered. People pick up on your energy. Even when we're not around them and they're far away. Energy and enthusiasm are contagious. I don't know why it is, but they are, and that's how it works. And that energy, is something that everyone picks up on. That woman in New York that got all those jobs, the bankruptcy attorney, people could pick up on her energy, not just from the things I was saying, but over the phone when they met her. And that energy exists when you have a focus. If your efforts are just kind of all over the place, you don't have a focus. But if they're focused, everything you say is directed towards that energy. And it's a huge thing that just makes a major difference in people's careers and lives. I had an example, of another person, that wanted to work for me. And she called me and to talk to me on the phone. Typically I don't always pick up my phone, because I'm on calls and so forth. And she just kept leaving all these messages, that she wanted to work for me and to call her back. And that's not the typical kind of message I receive. People call up and they're looking for jobs, but they don't say, this is important. I need, I want to work for you. Please call me. And so finally I called her back and I talked to her, and then she worked during the week. So she flew out to interview with me on a Saturday morning. And I showed up at the meeting at my office 15 minutes early. And she was sitting outside the door dressed in a suit. And I was, wearing shorts because it was Saturday, which is probably inappropriate, my fault. But anyway, and, she just was completely focused on getting the job. And then she didn't really have the law school qualifications or the quite the experience to work in the company, but I would have been crazy not to hire her. I mean, she was so enthusiastic and wanted the job so much. And then when she started, she did incredibly well, and then became the top performing person in our firm you know, within, you know, 2 years. And it all came from wanting something and believing it. And in her particular case, you know, she had, you know, had a friend that was doing this type of job at another firm. And that person told her she wasn't good enough. She didn't go to a good enough law school. She wouldn't be successful. And this went on for years and years and years. And eventually, you know, she told, you know, she decided to prove that person wrong, and had an incredible passion, and then knew exactly, you know, where she would work, you know, and someone told her that our company was like the Rolls Royce of recruiting firms or something, and that made her even more hungry. But the point is that, you know, that when you want something, the universe opens up to you, and people notice. And I noticed, and you know, definitely brought her in and hired her, and it wasn't a mistake. So you need a definite purpose, a definite aim, and the aim is a, you know, something that guides, like I told you earlier, guides your self-conscious mind and powerfully guides your thinking, and it helps, you know, you believe that positive things are going to happen to you instead of negative things. It's something that you repeat over and over again. I'm going to show you how to do it. So I know I keep talking about it, but I will show you how to do it. And when Hill discusses it in Think and Grow Rich, it focuses on money. And, you know, my focus has never been on money. It's on, you know, how I feel about my job and what I'm doing. But an example would be, you know, is what Bruce Lee wrote after he wrote Think and Grow Rich. And it's kind of interesting, and I'm going to show you, and you can take what I've written here and or showing you what he wrote here and do something similar for yourself, and I'll show you how to do it. But he wanted to become the highest paid Asian actor. And in you know, 1969, he wrote, you know, Bruce Lee, will be the highest paid Oriental superstar in the United States. In return, I will give the most exciting performances and render the best quality in the actor's capacity. By 1970, I will achieve world fame, and from then onward till the end of 1980, I will have in my possession $10 million. I will live the way pleased and achieve inner harmony and happiness. And I think, as everyone knows, you know, he did that, you know, and you know, very quickly became famous. And, you know, there's so many stories like this, you know, of people that have a goal. There's, you know, and believe in it before they do. There's the story of Jim Carrey carrying around a huge check, you know, that he made out to himself, and then got a part that paid exactly that amount. You know, and he wrote that when he was, before he was well known or had jobs, you know. And the idea is you have to commit something in writing, and you have to write it down. And I do this. I have my own goals, and I write them down, and I look at them every day. And you should be doing the same. You know, I mean, Lee wanted to make money, you know, so he wrote that down as his aim. And an example would be, you know, his aim is how much money he wanted to achieve. And so you have to ask yourself, you know, according to Hill, how much money you want, how much time, and then what are you planning on doing for it? And that's really it, you know. So you do that, and then you can achieve it. So this is an example that I want to show you today, and that I hope, you know, you guys can do in your lives and your career. But, you know, one example might be you want to be the most sought out and famous class action attorney in the United States if you're practicing class action law. And so instead of just being a class action attorney, you want to be the one that everyone goes to. You know, and very few attorneys, by the way, have anything like this. The ones that do would likely do well. But, you know, you need a purpose. And, you know, so the idea, you know, you have to ask yourself, you know, in your career, what do you want to become? You know, and the answer is something along the lines of, if you want to become a famous class action attorney, then that's what you should write. And then you give yourself a period of time, and then you would say what you plan on doing. So I would say something like branding myself publicly as the best class action attorney in the United States, committing to this practice area, bringing in the most significant cases, and aligning myself with people who will support my goals and win all my cases. And so you write something down along those lines. And then once you write it down, you have, you know, something that looks kind of like this, you know, and then you read it every day. And I can't tell you how important this is. I mean, the big thing is that this formula, it works. And Almost, very few people do this, but it's very simple. You read this every day and it aligns your thinking, and it gives you something to focus on. It gives your life meaning, and it gives your career meaning. Some people do this for their personal lives and their work lives, and but you set a goal for yourself, and you make sure that you have this, and then you follow this and you return to it every single day. And you also set a goal, in terms of the time you'll achieve it. And you can have money as part of it if you want, if that's important to you, or you can, make it about that, but that's important. And, and that's really about it. I mean, and you sign and date it, and you're supposed to read it every morning, and then again before you go to bed. And this may sound like some, stuff that, may not be, related to the practice of law, but in truth it is, because people that have goals are the ones, that really end up reaching what they want. And having one overriding goal, you certainly are going to have task lists and so forth, but having a goal that guides you to where you want to go is going to make a difference. And I know people, I've been doing this for, 20 plus years, and I know people that have taken my advice from 15 years ago and are now at the very top of their profession doing this. And when I say the top, I mean the top, where there's not a lot of people, near them, and have followed this. And you should too. I mean, it's incredibly important, if you can do it. The third part, we covered earlier was what, action you're going to take, to reach what you want. And the idea is what you're going to do. Someone needs to benefit. You need to talk about how they're going to benefit, and then you need to have a plan. And, in the example above, people are going to benefit because you're winning, all of your cases. So that's really the formula. And, and people that become famous and become good at their careers and become, leaders in their industries, really know what they want, and Mary Lou Retton, when she won the first American gymnast to win the all-around gold medal in the Olympics in 1984, a reporter asked her, how does it feel to win a perfect 10 and for the team? And she answered, like it always felt. And then they said, but you've never done it. No one's ever done it before. And she replied simply, I've done it thousands of times in my mind. So she had a goal, and she knew what she wanted, and she went after it. And if you want to achieve anything, you really need to know where you're going, and you're not going to get anywhere until you do. And it's the same thing, in your job search as well, and in your career. You need to have an overriding goal, and that more than anything, I've talked in previous presentations about resumes and cover letters and all these different things you need to do and how to find jobs and locate jobs. But it's really what's internal to you and what comes through when people talk to you that make the biggest difference. And it's what you want, because when you want something, everything around you kind of falls into place to make that happen. It's your subconscious mind is guiding everything. And when you go, day in and day out, and you refine that over and over again, it gets you to where you want to go. And I don't know of anything more important. It doesn't matter, what's happened to you until today. If negative things have happened to you, if positive things have happened to you, you can make more positive things and attract that by doing them. So I'm going to take a couple-minute break, and then when I come back, I will take questions. Thanks. All right, well, let's start with questions. Thanks for asking as many questions as people have. I'm definitely happy. Will answer them as much as I can. One question that's a great question is, completely agree with you. Will goal setting also include beyond the role of GC to CEO of an organization that is being looked upon by an organization continuing my experience and leadership quality? Yes. I know someone that it's actually kind of a cool story. They went to work and they had a goal, like you said, of being a GC of an organization, and then they actually, when they became the GC of the organization based on that goal, they ended up, deciding that they wanted to get into management and actually be, like the CEO of the company. And this was a couple of years ago. They're not the CEO yet, but they were able to transition into being an executive and getting trained that way too. So you can always refine your goals as you go along. But the nice thing about that person and the way they set goals was they became, much more, focused on that goal, in remaining with the employer, and did well, which was kind of cool after doing that. So that's a good question. And then someone corrected me and said Andrew Carnegie. I think I was saying Dale Carnegie, and yeah, that's right, Andrew Carnegie. What else can we do to strengthen the beliefs we create for ourselves instead of writing it down and reading it every night? That's the next question. Well, one question is, the people, that do is they, you write down those goals, and then the other thing is you write down, a lot of times people will write down positive affirmations, and so you'll write down, the way you need to be to become that sort of person. So, and when Napoleon Hill talks about it, he says, you're supposed to read that statement of who you want to become each night, and then each day to yourself, and you're supposed to read it out loud, and you're supposed to believe in it, not just read it, but you're supposed to really try to believe in it. And then in addition to writing it down and reading it each night, you're supposed to spend, a period of time, like 30 minutes, he says, and I don't know, if that's enough time, but 30 minutes, if that's too much time, but 30 minutes trying to develop the self-confidence that you need. So you think about, what, the kind of confidence you would need to reach that goal. And so you develop that internal self-confidence, and then also, just kind of imagining yourself in that position as well. So, so that's, something that I think is also very important. Okay, and then there's other exercises you can do too. There's something called, which I recommend that everyone do. There's a cool website. It's called Penzu, Penzu, and there's also, and it allows you to kind of keep a daily diary. And one of the things that's a good thing to do, is every day, people that do this, a form of this, are very successful as well. Is you write down, the things that you're scared about, and then you write down the things that, and so you do one column would be like what I'm afraid of, or what I'm mad about, and then you kind of get all that out, because a lot of times when you're mad or you're sad about things, it can influence, your success. And what happens when people do that is they get their kind of negative beliefs out in the open, and then you also write down things you're grateful for in another column, and then the next column will be things that it would just be kind of lines, like on a paper, and then you write down what you're excited about, and who you want to become, and you just maybe spend like 15-20 minutes just kind of creating a little list every day. And that's an important thing for people to do too. But all this stuff, you want to become the person you can, but when you write down the things you're mad about and what you're excited about, and every day, like you go back and you review that each week, and you see that the things you were nervous about and stuff tended to be things that didn't really end up being mattering, and in the process you're supposed to get a lot more self-confidence. Do I recommend any other books than Think and Grow Rich? Yeah, I mean, I think Think and Grow Rich is pretty good. I mean, it's out of this kind of, that was kind of a thought movement at the time, when people were thinking about those sorts of things. But what I like about the book is it's very well edited. It's free, pretty much, and it's something that a lot of people, have, believed in. I read an Anthony Robbins book, Unlimited Power, when I was young. I really like that. But I think, in terms of getting motivated and something to refer to again and again, I think, that is a very helpful one. Yeah, the weekly coaching calls, working on the topics. There are previous things that we've covered, and if you go to or.com, you can probably see those. But we've covered, so far, resumes, cover letters, where to find jobs, and then, quite a few other topics as well. And you can, see the topics there. But yeah, we do have a lot of other topics, and each week I cover a new topic. and try to come up with things that are interesting each week. This particular topic that I've covered this week, I think, is a little bit out there. I mean, it's not something that everyone thinks about, but it really, in my opinion, is one of the most important things. And I hope, that everyone can, you really can, from a standpoint of trying to find, jobs in the legal community, having those goals are just incredibly important. I mean, if you think about, all these attorneys that are successful, and it doesn't matter, where you went to school. It doesn't matter, what your previous experience is. I mean, it's, it's being able to, um, you know, um, give people, I mean, it's being able to know where you're going. Okay, do I have any advice for older attorneys looking to start second careers either in the law or elsewhere? Yeah, I mean, I think, there's plenty of things, you can do. I mean, anybody, it doesn't matter. If you want to, if you started in the law, then you need to think about, where you want to go. The best thing you can do is a lot of times is you can write down, what all your skills are, but most people have interests. So, you have to think about, what has motivated you based on your past experience and interest, and where is your passion? Like where is it? I mean, it could be about anything. I mean, it doesn't matter, but whatever you enjoy or have enjoyed in the past, because the idea is, and what I've tried to communicate today, and I don't think I've done as well as I could, but because it's a really important topic, but I've tried to communicate is that, when something gets your interest and you naturally, that's very, very important. So, it's, you can kind of brainwash yourself into wanting to do something, but when something gets your interest naturally, you can do, extremely well. And, because then, all your skills are brought to bear and you feel good doing it. And a lot of times you have more self-confidence. And so everyone needs to be directing their goals towards things where they think they'll do well and that meet their interest. And one of the problems I think with practicing law is most people, by the way, do not enjoy all aspects of practicing law, but some people actually really do. And they learn to love it, and they understand the challenge of it and the fun of it, after they've been doing it for a long time. And a lot of the real fun, some of the fun is from doing the work, but other fun comes later, when you start having clients and you manage them and you have, and you're learning constantly, or when you're working in a company and you're advising their direction. So if you're looking to start a second career in the law or elsewhere, you need to draw on your, what makes you happy, and, what you feel like, you're going to be good at, and motivates you. And that's what I would recommend. Okay, I've been practicing mindfulness for years. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Yeah, and I like mindfulness too. I think that's very important as well. Let me see. It's very difficult for me to figure out exactly what I want. I'm not even sure if I really want to stay in the legal field. How can I define my purpose if I don't know what I want? Any ways that I can figure out what I want for myself? So one of the things that I've noticed that I think could really help you is the most successful people that I know and learn about, and I personally do not do enough of this, I live in like a beach community, and it's hard to get out of here a lot, and I work long hours, but most of the most successful people out there, like they join like networking groups, they talk to other people, they read about what other people are doing, and people that get all these ideas for these successful types of cases to take, or law firm, a lot of times, and if they don't necessarily want to practice law, they get it by networking and meeting other people. And those people are the ones that help give them a direction, and they kind of get their direction after talking to those people. So I think that just the more people you meet, the better. And then it's hard for you to understand exactly what you want, you should try to understand, what has motivated you in the past. And it should be, like a certain type of work, or being around certain types of people, or, or something. And it's very hard for a lot of attorneys, because if you don't think you want to stay in the legal field, I mean, the first thing is you know, the legal field is not for everyone, because I mean there's a lot of, you know, you have to like the work, but you, and not only that, but you want to be good at it, and you want to think about where have you done the best, and you know, what things have you done the best at, because the idea is that anybody can be very successful. It's just a question of, you know, focusing your effort on something and really having an interest in it. And if you have that, it's going to make you persistent. So you need to figure out, you know, where your interest is. Okay, so next question is, and by the way, anybody, I'll answer any questions anyone has. So I'm happy to, you know, keep answering them. Should one's mission statement be an ultimate goal, or would you recommend it for an incremental goal and revising it once a goal is achieved? Okay, so that's a great question. I'm going to answer that in another way as well, and then and I'll kind of walk you through that. So, like the best way to have, you know, you need to have an ultimate goal that should be kind of a big goal, and that's called, you know, my mentor Chet Holmes used to say that you need a BHAG, which is a big, hairy, audacious goal, and then to get there, you need what's called pig-headed discipline. And so you need to have a big goal and you need to be disciplined to get it. But the other thing about that is, you know, with incremental goals, you should, you know, be writing, you should be referring to your, you know, main goal each week, you know, and every day. And then you should have goals that are kind of weekly that you write down. A process that is used at Google and a lot of very successful organizations that you can use personally, and I guess this would be another book, is called, is by John Doerr. He wrote a book called Measure What Matters. And that talks about doing quarterly goals. And when you do the quarterly goals, those are kind of all based on, you know, you'll pick like 4 or 5 things you're going to work on over the next quarter, and then you review them. So an example would be like if you want to develop a $10 million book of business, and you know, one goal might be related to the service you're going to provide your existing clients. Another goal might be, you know, meeting people, and, you know, and then you kind of go down from there. So I would review that book. But no, you need to have incremental goals. And there's all sorts of timekeeping systems that you can use, but most timekeeping systems and, you know, goal setting systems will will help you, you know, create, you know, ongoing goals. And I may actually think about showing you, you know, a good system in the next week or so. But the problem is what most people do is they're just kind of on this treadmill, and they're going in all these different directions in their jobs, and they don't really know where they want to go. And you know, the important thing is to, you know, to have an overall goal that you want, and you know what it is, that you focus on, and then everything else falls into place. It may make you change goals. It may make you, you know, change firms or employers and practice settings, or do other things. I mean, some people's goals are literally, you know, I mean, I knew one very successful attorney whose goal was to open a chain of bike stores. Great, I mean, that's fine. And so he decided he was going to practice law to save up money, and then he did, and then he started this chain of bike stores, and that's fine. You know, he loves bikes, he loves riding, you know, he loves talking about them, he sees connections and understands the people in the industry, and so that's fine. You know, that's great, and he's very happy. So your ultimate goal is to be happy, and it doesn't have to be, you know, practicing law, which should be, you know, something, but you need to have it, and then everything should be guided by that, and you want to be the best you can be. Okay, so let's see. What do you do when you have the connections, experience, and skills aren't getting positions simply because of where you went to law school? That's a great question. You know, I was watching a show last night, and in it they were featuring a couple of attorneys that had gotten Richard Scrishy, or someone, the guy that founded Health South, off of you know, a crime that he committed. And you know, and both of those attorneys had not gone to good law schools, but they became very famous and well known for doing a good job in that case. And you don't necessarily, your law school does not determine what happens in your career. Your passion for something and determines it. And when Scrushy hired those two attorneys, I mean, they were local attorneys in Birmingham, Alabama, that, he could have afforded to hire anyone. He hired them because they were the most passionate, and he knew they would do the best job with the local juries and so forth. So regardless of what you're doing, you may not be getting positions. Some people start solo practitioner jobs, which you can be very effective at. But you should definitely, be learning and so forth. And not everyone gets positions in the practice of law with other law firms. I mean, you can. I mean, you need to contact more people. You need to come across as enthusiastic. You need to be reading everything you can about it, and you need to just develop kind of that white hot passion and enthusiasm for the work. And if you do that, you're going to get more positions. You will. I mean, you need to, because people would be insane, regardless of the school you went to. When people interview you, if you have that passion for what you want to do, I mean, why wouldn't they hire you? They have to. I mean, some people are going to be snobs about your school, and you don't want to work for those people. But if they're, know what they're doing, anybody that is very passionate about something is going to do well. So you should, be getting yourself out there. You should be meeting people, and you will get a job eventually. And if you don't get a job in the kind of place you want or the location that you're in, then you can always, use that experience to launch yourself into something else. I mean, it should be, if you want to practice law, you need to ask yourself why and have reasons, but you can launch yourself into something else. So that's a great question. All right, well, thank you. If no one has any more questions, let me just check here. I think that's it. And, oh, wait, I think there's one more. Let's see here. Oh, I think that's great. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. And I appreciate you being on the webinar.